The desperate call the story opens in the depths of space aboard the alien research vessel, Harmony's Light. The blue-skinned Vel people have been monitoring galactic communications for decades, desperately seeking help for their dying world. Their planet, Velos Prime, is being consumed by an aggressive crystalline parasite called the Devourer strain that turns organic matter into lifeless crystal formations. Dr. Kira, the lead scientist aboard the vessel, receives another rejection from the Galactic Council. The advanced civilizations, the proud Altoni Empire, the technological Mech Collective, and the psychic Void Touched all refuse to help. They claim the Devourer strain is too dangerous, too unpredictable. Some even suggest the Vel should evacuate their world entirely. As Kira stares at the holographic display showing her homeworld's condition, nearly 60% now crystallized, her assistant Tom brings disturbing news. The infection rate has accelerated. They have perhaps 6 months before total planetary death. In desperation, Kira decides to expand their search beyond the known civilized species. The ship's AI suggests investigating a small, yellow star system on the galactic Rima system. The major powers have marked as primitive with a warning label, extreme caution, Deathworld species. The inhabitants call themselves humans, and their planet Earth has been classified as a Class 12 Deathworld, a rating so high that most species consider it uninhabitable. The planet experiences regular natural disasters, harbors countless deadly organisms, and somehow produced a species that not only survived, but thrived in such conditions. Against the advice of her crew, Kira authorizes a long-range communication attempt to Earth. The message is simple but desperate. We are dying. Our world is being consumed. We have asked everyone for help, but they all refuse. You are our last hope. The response comes faster than expected. A human voice, speaking through a basic translation protocol, responds with questions about their fall situation, their previous attempts for help, and detailed technical specifications about the Devourer strain. The human introduces himself as Captain Rick from something called the United Earth Emergency Response Division. What surprises Kira most is that Rick doesn't immediately refuse. Instead, he asks for a complete data package about their situation and promises a response within their planetary rotation cycle. For the first time in months, Kira feels a spark of hope. The part ends with the human response arriving. Captain, Rick's message is brief. We've reviewed your situation. We're coming. Prepare coordinates for our arrival. Estimated time, 3 weeks. Also, prepare your people. Humans work differently than most species you've probably encountered. 3 weeks later, the human fleet arrives at the edge of the Vel system. What appears on Kira's sensors defies her expectations. Instead of sleek, elegant vessels like those of other advanced civilizations, the human ships are functional, angular, and heavily armored. They look like they were built for war, not exploration. The lead vessel, Indomitable, requests permission to approach Velos Prime directly. Captain Rick's communication includes detailed scans of the crystalline infection and a preliminary assessment that makes Kira's hopes soar. The humans think they can help. The first human shuttle docks with Harmony's Light, and Kira gets her first look at the legendary Deathworlders. Captain Rick is tall and broad-shouldered, with scars on his hands and face that speak of a lifetime of challenges. His team includes Dr. Lisa, a biologist, Major Ben, a military specialist, and Engineer Paul, who immediately begins examining their ship's systems with intense curiosity. What strikes Kira most is their casualness about danger. When she explains the deadly nature of the Devourer strain, how it can infect any organic matter on contact, the humans simply nod and begin suiting up in environmental gear they call hazmat suits. Dr. Lisa mentions that it sounds similar to something they dealt with in their Arctic regions. The humans request to visit the planet's surface immediately. Despite Kira's warnings about the toxic atmosphere, the deadly crystal formations, and the risk of infection, the humans seem almost eager. Major Ben mentions that it reminds him of a cleanup operation they did in a place called Chernobyl. During the briefing, the humans reveal their plan. Instead of the careful, precise approach other civilizations might take, they propose something that sounds insane to Vel ears. They want to study the Devourer strain by going directly into the most infected zones. They plan to collect samples, map the infection patterns, and test various countermeasures in real-time. Dr. Lisa explains their reasoning. On Earth, we've dealt with similar problems. Aggressive biological agents, environmental disasters, contamination events. The key is understanding how they work by getting up close and personal. The park reveals the first major difference between humans and other galactic civilizations. Humans don't just theorize about problems, they dive into them headfirst. While other species send probes and conduct remote analysis, humans send people. As the human team prepares for planetary descent, Kira realizes that everything she thought she knew about problem solving is about to change. The humans aren't just offering help, they're offering a completely different approach to impossible situations. The human landing party descends to Velos, primed surface in a modified shuttle designed for extreme environments. As they breach the toxic atmosphere, Kira watches through remote sensors, expecting to see the humans retreat at the first sign of danger. Instead, they land directly in the red zone, the most heavily infected area where the Devourer strain has created a landscape of twisted crystal formations and toxic air. The humans emerge from their shuttle wearing full environmental suits, but they move with confidence rather than fear. Dr. Lisa immediately begins collecting samples of the crystalline growths, while Engineer Paul sets up monitoring equipment. Major Ben establishes a security perimeter, treating the deadly environment like any other operational zone. Their casual efficiency amazes the watching Vel scientists. Within hours, the humans make their first breakthrough. Dr. Lisa discovers that the Devourer strain isn't actually a single organism. It's a symbiotic cluster of 3 different parasitic entities working together. This revelation changes everything, as previous alien scientists had been trying to fight a single enemy when they needed to target 3 different biological systems. The humans establish a base camp directly in the infected zone, something no other species had even attempted. They work in shifts, with team members rotating in and out in the most dangerous areas. Their approach is methodical but fearless. They map infection patterns, test the crystal formation's structural weaknesses, and begin developing targeted countermeasures. Captain Rick communicates regularly with Kira, sharing data and observations. He mentions that the Devourer strain reminds him of certain fungal infections on Earth, as well as some industrial contamination they've dealt with. The humans begin referring to their mission as a cleanup operation rather than a rescue mission. The breakthrough comes when Engineer Paul discovers that the crystal formations have a specific resonance frequency. By using sonic disruption at precisely the right wavelength, they can cause the crystals to fracture and separate from organic matter. It's a solution that requires getting close enough to the infected areas to fine-tune the frequency, something only the humans have been willing to do. Major Ben suggests a large-scale implementation using modified mining equipment and industrial sonic generators. The plan is audacious. Instead of delicate surgical strikes, they propose a brute force approach using heavy machinery to systematically break down the crystal formations. Across entire continents. Dr. Lisa develops a biological countermeasure, a modified bacteria that can consume the organic components the Devourer strain needs to grow. The bacteria is based on extremophile organisms from Earth's deepest ocean trenches and most toxic environments. As the part concludes, the humans request additional equipment from their fleet: industrial mining robots, atmospheric processors, and something they call terraforming packages. They're not just planning to treat the infection. They're planning to restore the entire planet. Kira realizes that the humans don't see Velos Prime as a lost cause requiring delicate intervention. They see it as a damaged world that needs aggressive rehabilitation, much like they've apparently done on their own planet countless times. Asterisk. The human industrial fleet arrives with equipment that amazes and terrifies the Vel observers. Massive atmospheric processors, continent-sized mining platforms, and biological warfare laboratories that can develop countermeasures in real time. The scale of their response dwarfs anything the Vel had imagined possible. Captain Rick explains their methodology. On Earth, we've had to clean up after nuclear disasters, biological contamination events, and environmental collapses. This is just another cleanup job, albeit on a planetary scale. The humans begin their assault on the Devourer strain with characteristic directness. Sonic disruptor arrays are deployed across infected continents, their resonance frequencies precisely tuned to shatter crystal formations. The sound is deafening, but the humans work in the midst of it, fine-tuning and adjusting as they go. Dr. Lisa releases her biological countermeasure trillions of modified bacteria designed to consume the organic substrate that feeds the Devourer strain. The bacteria spreads rapidly, creating dead zones where the crystalline parasite cannot grow. It's biological warfare on a planetary scale, something that would horrify most civilized species. Meanwhile, Engineer Paul's teams deploy industrial mining robots that physically tear apart the largest crystal formations. The robots are built like tanks, designed to operate in the most hostile environments imaginable. They work continuously, carving through crystal forests that had been considered impenetrable. The turning point comes when Major Ben's military specialists discover the Devourer strain's central coordination node, a massive crystal formation at the planet's north pole that appears to be directing the infection spread. Instead of a careful surgical approach, the humans propose dropping a modified nuclear device directly onto the formation. The suggestion horrifies the Vel leadership. Nuclear weapons are considered barbaric by galactic standards, used only by the most primitive civilizations. But Captain Rick explains that it's not about destruction. It's about precision application of extreme energy to disrupt the coordination nodes. Quantum entanglement with the rest of the infection. Dr. Lisa provides the scientific justification. By severing the quantum connection between the coordination node and the rest of the Devourer strain, the infection will lose its ability to adapt and coordinate. The scattered infections can then be cleaned up using conventional methods. The humans don't ask for permission. They simply inform the Vel government of their plan and execute it. The nuclear device is not the crude weapon the Vel imagined, but a precisely calibrated quantum disruptor that targets the specific energy signatures of the coordination node. The explosion is visible from orbit, but instead of destruction, it brings salvation. Within hours of the detonation, crystal formations across the planet begin to fracture and collapse. The Devourer strain's coordination network is broken, and the infection begins to die. The humans immediately shift to Phase 2, planetary restoration. Atmospheric processors begin cleaning the toxic air, while biological agents start breaking down the dead crystal formations and converting them back into fertile soil. The scale and speed of the operation astounds the Vel observers. As the part concludes, Kira watches human teams working across her homeworld's surface, turning a crystalline wasteland back into a living world. She realizes that the humans don't just solve problems, they overwhelm them with applied force, advanced technology, and absolute determination. The Vel government receives a communication from the Galactic Council, expressing shock and concern about the humans' methods. Several civilizations are demanding an investigation into the use of nuclear weapons and biological warfare agents. The humans' response is simple: The job is getting done. Asterisk news of the human success on Velos Prime spreads rapidly through galactic communication networks. The response from the major civilizations is mixed awe at the effectiveness, horror at the methods, and growing concern about these Deathworlders, who solve impossible problems through what other species consider reckless aggression. The Altany Empire sends a formal diplomatic protest, claiming that the humans' use of nuclear devices and biological warfare agents violates 17 different galactic treaties. The Met Collective expresses interest in human industrial technology, but warns about the dangers of such uncontrolled approach to problem solving. Most concerning to the established powers is the flood of requests now reaching Earth. Dozens of species who had previously dismissed humans as primitive Deathworlders are now sending desperate pleas for help with their own impossible problems. Captain Rick finds himself in the unusual position of interstellar diplomat. He attends a virtual Galactic Council session where he's questioned about human methods and intentions. His response is characteristically direct. We helped because they asked, and because we could. If you don't like our methods, feel free to handle the next crisis yourselves. The council members are not prepared for this level of bluntness. The void-touched representative suggests that humans should be restricted to their home system until they learn proper galactic protocol. Captain Rick's response becomes legendary. Good luck enforcing that. We go where we're needed. On Velos Prime, the restoration continues at an unprecedented pace. The humans have established permanent bases and are working alongside Vel scientists to not just restore the world, but improve it. Dr. Lisa's team has developed new agricultural techniques that make the soil more fertile than it was before the infection. Engineer Paul's atmospheric processors have created the cleanest air in the planet's recorded history. Vel people are experiencing culture shock of their own. They're used to careful, methodical approaches to problems. The humans work with a combination of advanced science and brute force that produces results but challenges every assumption about how civilized beings should behave. Dr. Kira has become the unofficial liaison between her people and the humans. She's learned to appreciate their directness and efficiency, but she also serves as translator when human bluntness clashes with Vel diplomatic customs. She finds herself defending human methods to her own government and to other alien observers. Most significant development comes when the humans propose a long-term partnership. Instead of simply fixing Velos Prime and leaving, they want to establish a permanent research station. They're interested in studying how the Devourer strain evolved and developing countermeasures for similar biological threats. Captain Rick explains the human perspective. In our experience, disasters like this don't happen in isolation. There are probably other worlds facing similar threats. We want to be ready. This proposal sends shockwaves through the Galactic Council. The idea of humans establishing permanent bases outside their home system, actively seeking out dangerous situations to study and resolve, represents a fundamental shift in galactic power dynamics. The Vel government faces a choice: align themselves with the humans and risk antagonizing the established galactic powers, or maintain their traditional diplomatic relationships and potentially lose access to human problem-solving capabilities. The decision becomes easier when another crisis emerges. A mining colony in the Outer Rim sends a distress call about a quantum cascade failure that's threatening to destroy their entire star system. The Galactic Council's response is to evacuate the system and establish a quarantine zone. The human response is to ask for detailed technical specifications and prepare a rescue mission. As the part concludes, Kira watches human ships preparing to depart for another impossible rescue mission. She realizes that the galaxy has gained something it never had before, a species that responds to impossible situations with "let's get to work." The established galactic order is about to face its biggest challenge: not from conquest or war, but from a species that refuses to accept that some problems can't be solved. Asterisk. The quantum cascade failure at the Kepler mining station represents a threat that has the entire galaxy terrified. An experimental quantum drill has created an unstable space-time anomaly that's growing exponentially, threatening to collapse the entire star system into a black hole within days. The Galactic Council's response is swift and traditional. Immediate evacuation of all personnel, establishment of a massive quarantine zone, and deployment of long-range monitoring equipment to study the phenomenon from a safe distance. 3 billion miners and their families are written off as acceptable losses. Captain Rick's response is equally swift, but entirely different. Send us everything you have on quantum mechanics, space-time manipulation, and black hole formation. We're going in. The human fleet arrives at the edge of the affected system, as other species are fleeing in the opposite direction. What they find defies comprehension. Space itself is folding and twisting around the mining station, creating visual distortions that hurt to look at directly. Ships that venture too close are stretched and compressed by tidal forces that shouldn't exist in normal space. Dr. Lisa, now serving as the expedition's chief scientist, immediately begins analyzing the quantum signatures. Her assessment is grim, but not hopeless. It's like a wound in space-time that's getting infected. We need to either stitch it closed or amputate the infected area. The humans deploy equipment that other species didn't even know existed: quantum field manipulators, space-time stabilizers, and something they call a reality anchor, a device that creates a bubble of normal physics in the midst of the chaos. Engineer Paul leads a team directly into the distortion field, using specially modified ships with quantum shielding. It's a journey that violates every known law of physics and common sense. The ships are simultaneously in multiple locations, experiencing time dilation that makes communication nearly impossible. Inside the distortion field, the mining station exists in a state of quantum superposition, simultaneously destroyed and intact, occupied and empty, past and present. The human team has to navigate through layers of conflicting reality to reach the station's central core, where the failed quantum drill continues to tear holes in space-time. Major Ben's security team establishes a perimeter around the quantum drill, using weapons that fire stabilized matter to create temporary islands of normal space. It's combat against physics itself, requiring tactics that no military academy has ever taught. The solution, when it comes, is characteristically human in its audacity. Dr. Lisa proposes not stopping the quantum cascade, but redirecting it by creating a controlled implosion using multiple quantum charges. They can collapse the anomaly into a stable micro-black hole that will evaporate harmlessly over several thousand years. The plan requires precise timing and the sacrifice of the mining station itself. The human team evacuates the 3 billion colonists while simultaneously preparing to detonate quantum charges that will essentially create a small Big Bang in reverse. Captain Rick makes the decision that defines human character. Instead of remote detonation, he personally pilots the trigger device into the heart of the anomaly. His final transmission becomes another piece of human legend. See you on the other side. If there is one. The implosion works. The space-time anomaly collapses into a stable singularity no larger than a marble, which promptly begins evaporating according to Hawking radiation principles. The system is saved, 3 billion lives are preserved, and the humans have once again accomplished the impossible. The cost becomes apparent immediately. Captain Rick's ship is caught in the quantum collapse and exists in a state of temporal uncertainty. He's simultaneously alive and dead, present and absent, until the quantum effects stabilize weeks later. When Rick finally emerges from quantum superposition, he's aged 20 years in the span of minutes, and carries scars that exist in multiple dimensions. But he's alive, and more importantly, the mission succeeded. The galaxy's response to the Cascade Crisis rescue marks a turning point. Species that had previously dismissed humans as dangerous primitives now speak of them with something approaching reverence. The phrase, "call the Deathworlders," becomes shorthand for situations that seem impossible, but the established powers are growing concerned. The humans are not just solving crises, they're redefining what's possible. Their willingness to risk everything for strangers, their refusal to accept acceptable losses, and their ability to succeed where others fail is creating a new standard that other civilizations cannot match. As the part concludes, requests for human intervention are arriving faster than they can be processed. The galaxy has learned that there is no crisis too dangerous, no situation too hopeless, no problem too complex for the Deathworlders from Earth. 6 months after the Cascade Crisis, the galaxy has fundamentally changed. The Human Emergency Response Division has become the most requested organization in known space, with crisis calls arriving daily from across dozens of star systems. What began as a desperate plea from the Vel has evolved into a new paradigm for interstellar problem-solving. Dr. Kira now serves as the Director of Interspecies Cooperation aboard the newest human facility, Crisis Station Alpha, built in the formerly quarantined Kepler system. The station serves as both a training center and rapid response hub, where human techniques are taught to volunteers from other species willing to embrace the Deathworlder approach. The transformation isn't just technological, it's philosophical. Species that had spent millennia accepting certain limitations are learning to question the concept of impossible. The Vel, once considered timid by galactic standards, now operate their own emergency response teams using human-inspired methodologies. Captain Rick, still bearing the dimensional scars from the quantum cascade, has been promoted to Admiral and leads the newly formed Galactic Crisis Response Alliance. The alliance includes not just humans, but representatives from 23 species who have embraced what they call solution-oriented aggression. The old Galactic Council still exists, but its influence has waned dramatically. When the proud Altany Empire faced a stellar engineering disaster that threatened to cause their sun to go supernova, they reluctantly called for human assistance rather than face the extinction of their homeworld. The humans not only prevented the disaster, but improved the star's stability, extending its life by several billion years. The Mech Collective, initially skeptical of human methods, has begun incorporating human industrial techniques into their own systems. Their latest generation of construction robots are built using human durability standards and can operate in environments previously considered impossible for artificial intelligence. Even the mysterious Void Touched have requested human assistance. In dealing with a psychic plague that was driving their population insane, Dr. Lisa's team developed a biological solution that neutralized the psychic pathogen while strengthening the Void Touched's natural mental defenses. But perhaps the most significant change is in how the galaxy approaches the concept of acceptable losses. Before the humans, civilizations would calculate the cost of intervention and often decide that some disasters were simply too expensive to prevent. The human philosophy of "no one gets left behind" has spread like a beneficial infection throughout galactic culture. The economic implications are staggering. Worlds that would have been written off as lost causes are now productive members of galactic society. The Kepler system, saved from quantum collapse, has become a center for advanced physics research. Velos Prime, restored from crystal infection, now exports agricultural products that feed dozens of worlds. The transformation isn't without its critics. A faction of traditional civilizations, led by the isolationist Zenith Collective, argues that human intervention is creating dangerous dependencies and undermining natural selection on a galactic scale. They point to the increasing frequency of crisis calls as evidence that species are taking greater risks because they expect human rescue. Admiral Rick addresses these concerns in his testimony before the Reformed Galactic Assembly. Yes, we've changed how things work. Yes, species are attempting things they never would have tried before. But look at the results. We have a galaxy where problems get solved instead of managed, where disasters become opportunities for improvement, where no one has to face the impossible alone. The speech becomes a defining moment for human galactic relations. Rick continues, "You call us Deathworlders like it's a warning label. Maybe it is. We come from a world that tried to kill us every day, so we learned to fight back against anything that threatens life. That's not something we're going to apologize for." The final scene takes place on Velos Prime, now a garden world more beautiful than it had ever been before the crisis. Dr. Kira stands with Rick overlooking a landscape where crystal formations have been converted into stunning architectural features, their deadly nature neutralized, but their beauty preserved. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if we hadn't called for help? Kira asks. Doc Rick considers the question seriously. Your people would have found another way. Maybe. Not our way, but some way. That's what living beings do. They survive, they adapt, they overcome. We just helped speed up the process. As they watch human and Vel children playing together in parks that exist because both species refuse to accept defeat, Kira realizes that the galaxy hasn't just gained a rescue service. It's gained a new perspective on what's possible when intelligence, determination, and compassion work together. The stars above hold countless challenges yet to be discovered. But for the first time in galactic history, those challenges are met not with fear or resignation, but with the confident knowledge that somewhere among the stars, Deathworlders are standing ready to respond to the call. Help us. The galaxy is no longer the same. It's better. Asterisk.